השמש מלהטת, ובהם מקום מוצץ הקר. אנו אוהבים אותך מולדת, בשמחה, בשיר ובעמל, ממורדות על מלון עד ים המלח, נעבור אותך במחרשות. אנו אוהבים תלך ונבנה לך, אנו נייפה אותך מאוד. אנו אוהבים תלך ונבנה לך, אנו נייפה אותך מאוד. על משך סלמת בטון במלך, ונפרוץ לך מרפדי גנים, על אדמת שדותייך הנגאלת.
Good afternoon and welcome to Be Profitable, a meeting presented to you by the Israel Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines. Please welcome your host, certified voice artist, Miss Kate De Vera.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another informative and timely event brought to you by the Israel Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines. My name is Kate De Vera, and I will be your host this afternoon. Before I continue, I'd like to let you know that we are live on the ICCP Facebook page. Feel free to like and share. I would also like to invite all of you to follow us on Instagram. It's at israelchamber.ph. On Twitter, we are at israelchamberph. And please also follow us on LinkedIn. But before we begin, allow me to acknowledge our valued sponsors for today's event. Our Platinum members, Black Steel Advisors Incorporated, Ethiopian Airlines, and of course, Exlinkevents. Our Gold members, Dayanan Business Consultancy and Dusitani Manila, Paragon ICC, Star K Kosher, Watermatic Philippines, and Exceed. Our event sponsors, Harvest Agribusiness Corporation, Mapicon, and Phildesk International Corporation. Thank you so much for your support. We'd like to start the program with a short opening remarks from Mr. Tomer Havey, the head of Israel's economic and commercial mission to the Philippines. Mr. Havey used to work at the Department of Foreign Trade Administration under the Ministry of Economy and Industry. He was the former head of the branch in China. He is also the former development manager of APAC External Relations and business development manager of the Federation of Israeli Chambers of Commerce. He is also the former deputy head of mission of the Embassy of Israel in Vietnam. Our special guest is a graduate of Bachelor of Arts, Statistics, and International Relations from Hebrew University, Jerusalem. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it from Mr. Tomer Havey.
Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you so much for this wonderful introduction. Hello, everyone. Good morning to the guests from Israel, and magandang hapon to all the many guests here from Philippines joining this event. I would like to thank President of ICCP, Mr. Yorai Ofek, for the opportunity to speak here today, and to thank, of course, for the partnership, to all ICCP Board of Directors, also to greet you for elected again to another term of ICCP. I'm sure that you will lead ICCP to the best place and to support Israel and the Philippines economic and commercial relations. So I'm very happy to be here in the Be Profitable event and to speak here today. I would just like to share with the many people here from the audience from the Philippines that Israel is definitely a leading country with everything has to do with agriculture and agriculture technologies. Many things are coming, innovations are coming from Israel. If you see the dairy product, we have the Israeli milking cow is probably one of the best in the world, and we have a lot of innovations coming from the drip irrigation, husbandry, fertilization, and many more. And of course, the bee production, the honey production is also part of it. And I think that the origin of it starts already in the Bible. I'm sure that Uri and everyone here knows it, that the land of milk of and honey. It's mentioned in the Bible, and it's not surprisingly that we have this industry developed in Israel. I can tell you personally that I open each morning with the taste of Israeli honey. I do it from also health reasons, as you know that the honey has also a very healthy qualities. And you know, also traditionally we use it in the Jewish holidays. We celebrate the new Jewish New Year that will come in a while with the honey. So I think that you're going to have a very interesting discussion today with very interesting presentations from both from Philippines and Israel on the beekeeping and the honey production. And I would like to wish you all a fruitful event and to thank again ICCP for inviting me here today. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Havey. Before we begin our event, we will be inducting our newly elected board of directors. We would like to request our directors to please turn on their cameras. Please turn on your cameras. Thank you so much. All right, we are honored to have with us today the Philippine Ambassador to Israel, His Excellency Ambassador Makairog Alberto. He will be formally inducting our board of directors for 2021 to 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome His Excellency Ambassador Makairog Alberto.
Yom Tov, magandang hapon po sa inyo dyan lahat. Good afternoon to everyone. The office of which you have been appointed is of dignity and importance. In accepting this office, you shall assume full responsibility to uphold, carry out, and advance the objectives of this organization, which should not be taken lightly or carelessly discharged. As board members of the Israel Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines, you are hereby charged to adhere to the policy of the Chamber and contribute to the attainment of its mission, vision, and goals. Do you accept this charge?
Yes, we do.
Yes, I do.
Yes, I do. The presence of honored guests and members of this chamber here assembled, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I will stand for everyone to see. I state your name.
Rosemary Galang.
I
Do hereby solemnly
I
swear
Who hereby
solemnly swear
that I will uphold the mission, vision, and goals of this chamber
that I will uphold the
vision, and goals of this chamber,
and will, to the best of my knowledge and ability,
and will to
To the best of my knowledge and ability,
faithfully discharge the duties and responsibilities
faithfully discharge
duties and responsibilities
bestowed upon me
bestowed upon me
responded
to
on
further
me,
promote the economic, civic, and social
promote
development
the economic and civic
further promote the economic, civic, and social development
development
the Philippines, and the State of Israel.
for the Philippines and the state of Israel.
of Israel.
So help me God.
So help me
Help
God.
me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please
Thank you,
put down your
Ambassador.
hand.
Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ambassador.
Salamat po.
Congratulations, everyone. Thank you so much, Ambassador Alberto. Again, congratulations to our newly elected Board of Directors for 2021 to 2022. Now, let's hear from our ICCP President, Mr. Yoray Ofek.
Good afternoon and welcome to another afternoon of learning. Before I continue, allow me to acknowledge Undersecretary Evelyn G. Lavina. We are always grateful to the Department of Agriculture support to our Agri events. We would like to welcome our friends from the Israeli Economic and Commercial Missions to the Philippines, Davao Chamber of Commerce, PCCI, and other government agencies, the different business sectors joining us this afternoon, and of course, our dear friends and members. This event is part of our continuous effort to help the agriculture sector. I would like to congratulate the head of the Agriculture Committee, Mr. Toto Barcelona. For this timely discussion, also would like to thank Be Expert from Israel, Mr. Shaike Stern, for his generosity in sharing expertise among other participation. Thank you also Mr. Eddie Bohol and Ms. B. Hominohon for the new learning they will share with us this afternoon. Alongside this event, we would like to formally induct our new board of directors that just won the recent elections to be part of the Israeli Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. We have new head of committees this year. We start Education Committee, Health and Wellness Committee, and the membership committees. In the next couple of weeks, the head of the committees will contact you, our members, and offer you to join those committees. Remember, our participations as member in the organization will lead this organization to new heights, more exposure, and keep support our main goal in increasing the bilateral trade and relationship between Israel and the Philippines. I would like to invite our former members to rejoin the ICCP. Your support is important and critical for the organization. Please share this event with our friends and colleagues and offer them to join us. I would like to wish all of the new board of directors a great and productive year ahead of us. Thank you for the support and choosing me as the president for the upcoming year. Thank you for everyone joining us this afternoon. Toda raba, maraming salamat, ולהתראות.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ofek. You had an amazing term last year, and we cannot help but be excited for your second term. Mazel tov to you and to your board of directors. We are now ready to begin event, and there is no other way to do so than to listen to Yusek Evelyn Lavinia, Undersecretary for High Value Crops and Rural Credit of the Department of Agriculture.
On behalf of the Secretary of the Department of Agriculture, Dr. William D. Dar, malugod ko po kayong binabati at pinasasalamatan sa inyong mahalagang pagpupulong at pag-aaral sa araw na ito. Nahangad na mapag-ibayo at mapalawak ang pagnenegosyo ng pulot-pukyutan at ang wastong pag-aalaga ng sari-saring pinakakikinabangan mga uri ng bubuyog sa Pilipinas. We would like to specially thank the Israel Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines for getting behind this initiative by recognizing the importance and urgency of addressing both the latent agribusiness opportunities in raising bees and its attendant challenges. Maraming salamat din sa aking kaibigan at kapanalig na si Ginoong Toto Barcelona, ICCP Head of Agriculture Committee, sa kanyang pangunguna at pagpapupunyagi na maidaos ang mahalagang talakayanan na ito. Thank you too to Mr. Saike Stem, an agronomist and bee specialist from Israel, and bee agripreneur Mr. Eddie Bohol and Ms. Bettina Omoyon, who will all share their expertise and experience in highlighting both the agricultural value of bees as pollinators and their economic value as a source of food and cosmetic products. As we all pray to see the light and glimmer of hope and normalcy at the end of the COVID-19 pandemic tunnel, our spirits are momentarily buoyed by the arrival and deployment of vaccines across the country. Lulled by COVID fatigue, we are tempted to let our guards down only to be surprised and confronted by an event dreadful specter of a more virulent variant of the virus, the Delta variant, that caused erstwhile leading COVID recovering Asian countries such as Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, Singapore, Japan, and even European countries, the USA, and Australia unprepared. At the blink of an eye, the unprecedented surge are all around us. Unfortunately, this is the life-threatening global backdrop and conundrum upon which we need to search and find life-giving and life-sustaining solutions and pathways for ourselves. The wisdom of the Chinese Confucian philosophy of the yin and yang, which represents the balance in life between the inseparability of opposing forces, symbolizing the duality of reality and mankind's experience, helps me find solace, clarity, and the way through difficulties and challenges. And this is the perspective where I prefer to come from in appreciating and valuing what you are trying to accomplish here today. Otherwise, making sense of many things under these circumstances becomes a very tall order. Let me segue to my comments by stating that surely you already know that beekeeping in the Philippines is a thriving industry that perfectly matches the country's natural landscape. Personally, I associate bees with two things: their sweetness in the form of honey and their stings. Growing up in the farm in Davao amidst wild colonies of bees introduced me, at times painfully, wherever I got stung by a bee, to this fascinating world of nature. Later on in my life, I discovered that there's so much more than that. Importantly for humans, bees are crucial to our planetary health and survival. As pollinators, they are responsible for about a third of the food we eat. Yet, according to experts, bee populations worldwide are declining, largely due to climate change. We all must be concerned because bees are highly efficient pollinators and are essential to plant diversity. When bees are employed to pollinate crops such as avocados, berries, coffee, other fruits and vegetables, yields and weight increase dramatically compared to crops grown in the absence of bees. Carbon emissions are resulting in temperature extremes that are causing habitat loss, a rise in parasitic mites and predators that thrive in warmer temperatures, and increased pesticide use to deal with this new pest. All of these factors impact bees in both big ways, such as colony collapse, and small ways, such as shifting winds, forcing bees to be less efficient. I hope that this issue somehow falls within the scope of your discussion because any attempt to look at the agribusiness possibilities of beekeeping or apiculture cannot ignore the sustainability production of the essential live material, the bees themselves. Equally important is the practice of honeybee management in hives for pollination and the production of honey and other products such as wax, royal jelly, propolis, and pollen, and bee venom, in addition to the production of bees and queens, also represents the other wide range of outputs of beekeeping. This on top of its expanded economic and social value when bees support and provide other services such as apitourism, apitherapy, and the monitoring of the environment pollution. All these occupy the rich ecosystem of beekeeping. The Secretary of Agriculture maintains all industries encompassed by the agricultural sector, including the beekeeping industry, within the ambit of this 1DA reform agenda strategies transforming Philippine agriculture, which consist of farm consolidation, modernization, industrialization, professionalization, export promotion, and infrastructure development with the ultimate aim of supporting the President's vision of providing nutritious and safe food for the Filipino people through a food secure and resilient Philippines with prosperous and empowered farmers and fisher folks. Operationalizing this aspiration requires increasing food supply and resilient food system, and increasing farmers' income through farm diversification and product value addition, together with the provision of efficient delivery of support services. Raising bees, as well as engaging in all its products, iterations, and value-adding activities, is an important and critical form of farm diversification for many of our farmers and fisher folks to generate additional income. The dual economic value of apiculture as an essential instrument of plant pollination and production of honey as food and source of cosmetic ingredients place bees and beekeeping management front and center of the Secretary's battle cry of masaganang ani at malaking kita para sa ating magsasaka in transforming agriculture. Around the country, especially in the rural farmlands, smallholder farmers have been heavily impacted by COVID-19 and normal crop production, including beekeeping and field management, have been disrupted. But for as long as bees can hum freely and healthily, there's good reason for optimism. To end, allow me to share with you an intriguing trivia which I find to be not only curiously revealing, but thankfully a magical reward of nature to those of us who pay attention and are busy with bees. Believe it or not, ancient observers swear that bee watching is circuitry miraculous meditation. As bees dance and hum from flower to flower, absorbing the sun and distributing the pollen along the way, they emit a healing frequency that reverses disease and promotes soul and emotional restoration. Our brain may not comprehend this, but our cells do. This is believed to be the reason why beekeepers have one of the longest life expectancy out of all professions. There you go. Another excellent reason beyond being profitable in bees business is the business of living long, healthy, and sweet life with bees. So the next time you have the instinct of running away from bees, think again. When Cupid shot an arrow to your heart, you have love. But with bees, bees are awesome creatures that can not only give you love, but it can give you honey, money, beauty, and a long, healthy, and happy life. Maraming salamat at mabuhay po kayong lahat.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Yusek Lavinia. We are grateful for the constant support of the Department of Agriculture for all of our agri events and activities. Before I introduce the first speaker, please be reminded that we have a short Q&A after the presentation. Please type your questions at the chat box and we will try to answer them all right after. So, our first speaker is an agronomist and bee specialist all the way from Israel. He is a member of the Asian Apiculture Association. He is also a facilitator of courses in bookkeeping and agro studies from the Rupin Academic Center. He is the former head of beekeeping division of the Ministry of Agriculture in Israel. He is a master's degree holder in agriculture, specializing in horticulture and entomology from the Hebrew University, Jerusalem. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Mr. Shai Gister.
Good afternoon to all of you. It's a pleasure to me to be with you in such an interesting event. My first visit in the Philippines was about 50 years ago, and I was sent to make a feasibility study. And I went about beekeeping, and I've seen that there are only a few beekeepers. And when I went to the supermarket, I've seen most of the honey was imported. So after this, we had some courses in the Philippines on the spot and in the training center of Mashav. Mashav is the Israeli AID. And I'm very glad that since I've been many times in the Philippines, there is a lot of success. And thanks to Jean Lopez for inviting me to this event. And thanks for all this opportunity. I have seen now that after the history of about 50 years of me in the Philippines, that you got the idea that the Philippines has a lot of potential. And I do believe that in the future you can maybe also send some honey to Israel, because Israel is mentioned as the land of milk of honey in the Old Testament. But unfortunately, we don't have enough honey for our local consumption, and we import every year a few hundred tons of honey. Now, to go to the subject, before we go to the to the pollination, I would like to show you a short movie that we have done in the Myanmar, and we got the budget for it because they understood, the government, that the importance of pollination. Not many countries have the awareness about pollination. In Israel, we have pollination services. Beekeepers get a lot of money for bringing the hive for pollinate orchard and vegetables. So let's see the movie that is what's your pen? Okay. Sorry for the disturbance. Myanmar is a huge country. There are perfect conditions and tremendous potential to produce honey and byproduct. There are many talented and reliable professionals, and the project aims to introduce new methods of breeding and marketing. Combined with sound management, local beekeepers will be able to significantly increase their income. Just as important, the numbers of beekeepers themselves can be greatly increased in rural areas, leading to more jobs and greater income and empowering entire communities.
European honeybees and modern beekeeping were introduced into Burma by the British at the time of the Mandate. In the 1980s, Sheikh Stern was sent from Israel to provide training. Little has changed over the past decades, but now that Myanmar Burma has opened its doors to international development efforts, the time is right to upgrade and modernize local beekeeping. In July 2012, to start off the project, TAG and Mashav sent 2 beekeeping experts from Israel, along with 71 queen bees, as part of a training initiative in cooperation with the Myanmar Ministry of Livestock and Fisheries.
The future collaboration and cooperation will be very good, and some of you can come to attend the Israeli courses.
Participants in the training course included both private and government beekeepers.
So can you
63 of the queens have now been accepted into local hives. Another aim of the project is to raise awareness of the vital role that honeybees play in crop pollination and to develop local pollination services, leading to significantly increased revenue from cash crops. Developing the beekeeping industry will enable expansion of production of honey byproducts, with an increasingly large share of the revenue benefiting the local population. The expertise, training, and innovation provided by TAG and Mashav professionals will help move beekeeping in Myanmar into the 21st century.
I would like to see here the benefit of the beekeeping. I would like also to take this opportunity now to bless the new ambassador to our new ambassador to Philippines, His Excellency Ilan Cruz, supposed to come next month, and he and his deputy, Mr. Nir Balsam, together they have a lot of experience, and I'm sure in the future you can use both of them to promote not only the beekeeping but also the other Israeli activities. Now, if we shall see another project we were involved in the Philippines, is the Philippine Israel Center for Agricultural Training. We have with us in the meeting supposed to be Professor Eugene Baltazar, and in the question and answer that you will have here, you can see it here. You can see her here, and she can give you also a lot of information about the project. And as you see, this project was many years together with DAR and our embassy, including a greenhouse that our embassy gave to CLSU. And I do hope in the future it can be also some good example for you. Now, maybe or before this, I will say a few words about the courses. You know, with us I record this lecture a few weeks before the event, and in the event supposed to be also Mrs. Tami Eran Shushan. She is one of the directors of Mashav Agricultural Training Center in Shfaim, and she also trained many people that came from Shfaim, and she also will be responsible on the Philippines in Mashav, and I do hope in the future she can give you any information if you have any question in the later on in the question and answer. Now, when to come to the pollination, as I told you, this is many trees and many flowers need to have a pollination by insects. There are many flowers that don't need it. Like if we take, for example, rice or wheat, the pollination is done by the wind. But if you see part of this list, they need a lot of pollination by insects, and the honeybee became very, very dominant because we can control it. We cannot control many other insects that are in the nature. Here you can see some of the list of plants that need pollination, and it's proved. You know how we prove it? We can cover, if we cover trees or any vegetable in cages without any insects, you can see the difference that the yield that we can have with insects, or other insect or bees, and what we can have without. Of course, we have the control. Now, I would like to tell you that in the end of this presentation, by the way, I recorded as I told you, a few weeks before it. So you can see, you can learn if you get it before, you can see a list of all the flowers in the Bible of the pollination, which is done by McGregor. This is the old book that was written in 1976. There are 849 pages, but you can get it if you go to the link that I will give you. You can see all the book in your computer, and you can get any information that you can ask. Another list that I will give you is a little bit more modern one, but made by Wikipedia. Also, I'll give you the list, and then you can go to each flower of any crop that you are interested in. Now, you know that we have nectar collectors and we have pollen collectors. If we take the nectar collector, we see here the proboscis is very long, and she collects the nectar and go back to the hive to produce the honey. If we go to the honey bee that collect pollen, and you know the pollen is the food for the brood, so she take it in the mandibula, this grain of the pollen, and then she put it, she has the basket on the rear leg. The bee has 6 legs, so in the 2 rear legs, she put in the basket some grain from here, and then she put it and bring it to the hive. Here you can see this is in the frame in the hive, how she condense it. She put it from this and condense it. And here it's a pollen trap that if bees come here, they go, there is a net, we can collect the nectar, we take out from the rear leg, we take the pollen, we can identify which pollen we have and from what flower, and so we can see if we have a competition. Now, you in Philippines have many bees like Dorsata, Apis mellifera, Serrana, Florea, and Trigona, the stingless bees. And this is also bees that we can use for pollination. It's a bumblebee. We produce it in the laboratories, and we can put it, generally we put it in greenhouses for tomato, but in the trees it's not so efficiency because they have less bees. And to come to the honeybee, generally in Israel we use for pollination, the beekeepers have the Langstroth type with 10 frame. And this is very important to you to know that this is the strength. If you see this brood, this is the frame that in a few days, all this sealed brood will emerge, and this colony will be very, very strong. Now, if you are owner of orchard and you would like to pay for the beekeeper, you should have a strong colony that will do we will have many worker bees that will do the job. So what we do, we have some regulation, how many minimum of brood frames supposed to be in each hive, and this give you the strength. And sometimes if any beekeeper bring a hive that are very weak, we are asking the inspector, the honey marketing board in Israel, the inspector, and he come and the farmer or the owner of the orchard pay him less because he didn't give the correct hive. When we do pollination, we need to make transportation. There are several types of transportation. For example, this one that is in a semi-trailer, something like this in trucks, and we can do it by hand because not in every place we can come with a truck. And this is very heavy, but we bring the hive during night generally because the bees are not flying during night. And we try to put them only few hives in one spot and then if we have this group, we go about 300, 400 meters and put another group because we don't want it will be too much crowded. And when we do work with pollination, we have a competition. You know, the bee can fly a few kilometers and come back to the hive. And in this case, the refugees have some favorable plants. For example, in Israel, when we have the citrus blooming and we have the avocado blooming, most of the bees prefer the citrus. It's more sweet to them. They like it. And sometimes they prefer to fly a little bit far to take the nectar from the hive, from the citrus, and not to go to the avocado or mango or other. Now, what is also important is to see is that we need to control the flower of competition because sometimes you can have flower of mustard or canola or other flowers or some weeds that are in competition to the plants, and in this case the bees will fly to this competitor, and you should be aware of this. Another thing is to make selection and breeding of honeybee. You know, we can use in honeybee artificial insemination, and in Israel we do have the station for bee breeding, and we do artificial insemination. And if, for example, you take the alfalfa plant, the bees don't like it because they got hit when they come to take the nectar, and some bees are not afraid of this, so we prefer to find this. Another, for example, is some breeding of morphological characteristics that reduce the flight distance, so the bees will not go far. And another thing is, for example, in the clover, we have with bees that have long proboscis, and if they have short proboscis, they cannot come to the flower and take the nectar. If we spoke about transportation, this is another way of transportation. We have the truck and we have the trailer. Here we have the loader, so we load both of them. And so it's sometimes easier. Some people prefer not to use trailers, some prefer. I show you different types and you prefer what is suitable for you. I know that in the Philippines, there are some rural areas that some trucks and train trailer cannot come, so you can do it in a small pickup, or you can take the advantages that the bees can fly for a few kilometers and put it a little bit behind if you don't have a competition. Here you can see how we can use the loader. And in this case, we have eight hives. You see here, four here on the planet and four here, two and two behind. And if we put it here, for example, in the almonds, we need to put it not in the row, but not to make any interruption to the tractors and the other activity. Now here we can do this if the bees here, you see, they are strong. We don't need to take the four above and put it here, because this is a short time of the blossom, and you don't need to get any treatment to the bees. Here you can see he has here the remote control, and when after he fix it, now he will make a balance of it that it will be okay, stable, so he can release you will see he release the loader, and go on. So this can remain during a few weeks, all what we need with not any treatment to the bees. If we speak about pollination in Israel, about 100 hives are pollinate the orchard, and this is more or less most of the bees that we do have in Israel, most of the number of the hive. But you see the only contribution of the economy to pollination is about $500 million. And you should know that our government support the beekeeping branch by putting tax on the imported honey that because they know the importance of the pollination to the other economy or to the other plants, and this protect the farmer, because if there will be, we can bring cheaper honey from abroad and the beekeeper cannot survive, and this will reduce the economy or the profit of many farmers that need pollination by bee. So the government in Israel know the importance and the essential things that we have in pollination. Not in every country they know the importance of pollination, and when we speak about bees, they think only about honey. They don't think about the wax, the propolis, the royal jelly, and and also the venom could be some medicine from it, and they only think about honey. So you can see here that the importance of beekeeping or the pollination from beekeeping to the economic agricultural economy is much more than the income that the beekeepers get. Here you can have an example of if you can see the number of hives that we are using in agriculture. So you can understand that we can use some of them twice or 3 times. For example, the almond, that is 25 hives that are in the almond blossom, they are starting in the beginning of February, and they finish. And when they finish, we can go to the sunflower, or can go to the melon, or can go to seeds, or can go to strawberry or to other. So there are some beekeepers that are specialized in moving the bees from place to place, and they give we call it pollination services. Now, if the colonies need to get treatment, they are not too strong to, you see, they are weak colony, and they need to get treatment during the end of the winter. You see it starting blooming. We need something to give them food, something to strengthen with a young brood or with sealed brood frame. So we put them on one super, and we try to put him on a wheel. Use the wheel that tires that it's easier to walk with them. You know, one of the problems for beekeeping is they break the back. So we try to find some things that are more comfortable. Now, if we go to China, to Sichuan area province, you see that they are still using hand pollination of pears. And if you can imagine how much work it should be to take one tree, all the flower on one tree, to pollinate it by hand, it cannot be competition to the bees. Now, unfortunately, we have many problems with the bees, like CCD and some other things, and we are facing the varroa mite. You also have the varroa, you have Tropolylaps, you have the beetles and many other diseases also here. We have the loss of foraging. For example, trees that are cutting and there was a good source of nectar, they are cutting, and no, you will see later what we have instead of these trees. We have problem of pesticides. You can see the damage. You see what happened if we had the trees. It here could be, or it was done, was here a big citrus or eucalyptus or some other source of nectar, and now it's a building. The people don't give a lot. By the way, now it's a new idea in the world. It's called urban beekeeping. In some cities, in New York, in Paris, London, they put on the roof of the buildings, they put some bees, but it's not commercial and not good for pollination, for our pollination. Another problem is netting. You know, some of the trees need to get protection from the hail or some other insects, and sometimes they still have the trees, and this is make a problem that the bees cannot come and make pollination. Another problem is spraying. If we spray the trees, you see there is a drift, there is some wind come. If we take, for example, another problem of insecticide, it's done by the airplane. In Israel, the citrus, we have a fly, it's called the Latin name is Ceratitis capitata, it's a Mediterranean fly. And when we export the citrus to Europe, it's not allowed to have any one larva of this fly. So we spray and it's make a damage. So we came to some agreement with the citrus board that they don't spray during the day, only very early in the morning, and they don't, if it's too hot, they don't spray. And they also, what they are doing, they are try to make the short, make it only in a short time, and they announce the beekeepers not to bring the hive to this place. Now, I would like to show you another thing which is like a combination. It's a startup which is done in Israel.
Today,
and now
every third bite of food we eat depends on insect pollination, and mainly on honeybees. But as you've probably heard in the news, honeybees, as well as other insects, are declining at an alarming rate and even disappearing altogether. This is putting our food supply and food diversity under great stress. But thanks to Edit Precision Technologies for Agriculture, the world now has a safety net. Edit is developing a pioneering artificial solution for pollination, capable of supplementing pollination by bees and even replacing it completely. With Edit, growers have a solution that can not only secure agricultural yields, but increase yields too. This is not wishful thinking. Field trials have proven that our artificial pollination has increased yields 3 years in a row. We've shown successful results on branches, on full trees, and over acres of orchards. Curious to know how? Edit's end-to-end pollination solution starts with the mechanical harvesting of flowers in a delicate process that prevents any harm to trees. The pollen is then separated from other flower parts, and the viable and germinable pollen is stored for more than 1 year. This overcomes the problem of desynchronization of different cultivars' blooms. It also ensures fertilization and fruit setup by matching the best pollinizer with each commercial variety, regardless of the timing of their bloom. When it is time, Edit's proprietary mechanical pollinizer then disperses dry pollen on the trees following the contour of each tree, allowing fertilization to occur. Edit's initial market focus is on the almond industry, but our go-to market will kick off at scale in 2023. Next, we'll focus on other rosacea before moving on to other crops in the future. The biggest difference between Edit's end-to-end mechanical pollination and insect pollination is the ability to guarantee yields. Unlike bees, Edit's mechanical pollination works 24 hours a day and is not limited by daylight or poor weather conditions. And compared to other man-made solutions, Edit provides pollen that is pre-tested for germinability and does not disperse pollen using brute force, a major commercial game changer. We may not be able to stop honeybee populations falling, but we can provide a plan B for farmers and the world.
What you have seen here, as I told you, is a company that a new company which is startup that was in Israel, that is still in Israel, and American investor now gave them a lot of money, and they are sent this machine that you have seen to California to almond trees, and we shall see later on if it will work or not. But it's very interesting. Here you can see another damage that we have seen from the insecticide. You can imagine the grower paid, the farmer paid for the beekeeper for boxes with bees, and you see all here is a dead bee. And now if you can see it here, and you can see here, it's empty. So it's a he paid money for nothing. So you should know that you are the orchard owner also should have some responsibility to inform the beekeeper before you are going to have any insecticide, because you will not make damage only to the beekeeper, but you will make damage only to yourself. Now, as I told you, I would like to give you the information about McGregor. This he was the I can say the best researcher in pollination that I know. When I was student in university, we learned it like a Bible. And as I told you, it's 849 pages. If you see here on the bottom, this is, you have here the link. If you put it in your computer, read all the 849 49 pages, and you can hear the introduction. You have the economics, and you have the flowering, the wild bees, everything that, any question that you will ask, you will get the answer about this. And also about a pollination agreement and services that I told you it's very important for you as people who have the orchard. Another one is I told you about the Wikipedia. You see here, down here. This is more new, and from time to time you can see a lot of innovation. Now, I would like to show you the last movie will be about another new high tech, or let's say startup that also made in Israel. The idea is very smart. I don't know if it will work. You will see the demo one. You can imagine like containers that inside you have 40 hives. You will see it's in a different shape. There is also extraction machine. And the idea is that you don't need to come to check the bees. You can do it from remote control by the phone, by application. And also now American people invested few million of dollars to this group. And I follow him, I'm accompanied them. I don't know what will be, but it's very interesting. If it will work, you can imagine you bring like container and put it somewhere in your orchard, and you can stay at home and take care for the bee. That's it.
Worldwide, bees are dying. Nearly half of all beehives and colonies just die out, a phenomenon known as colony collapse disorder.
Pesticides, disease, and climate change. Those are the big four stressors, I would say. And all of them kind of combined is the perfect storm for why we're seeing about 30 to 40% of all bees die every single year globally.
These factors are killing bees by the trillions, and there's good reason to care. A man's got to eat. 30% of the world food supply is reliant on bee pollination. The issue is the technology to grow and protect those bees hasn't changed much in the past 150 years, at least not until now. There's one Israeli company with a new solution. This is a robot-controlled hive. 2 million bees swarming inside a machine that controls their climate and prevents bees from bringing back poison. The BeeWise hive can lock down if its sensors detect too extreme temperatures or too much pesticide. And it's constantly scanning for signs of parasites or disease. If it finds any, it can call for immediate intervention.
A queen bee can lay 2,000 eggs a day. So if 2,000 bees are gone in the field, in a couple of weeks, you can kind of replace them with new population. The important thing is to make sure that the queen is safe and the colony is safe.
But a robot hive isn't just about protecting the environment. It's about tackling one of the biggest challenges to the agricultural economy.
Beekeeping is very labor intensive, and this is exactly the pain point we're trying to address. So the biggest pain point for the beekeeper is the labor, getting out to the field and getting to the hives.
And keeping up bee populations means much better yields for Israel's farms, especially those kibbutzim whose entire way of life relies on agriculture.
If you see an area that the bees are dying, you
you'll see less fruit in the end of the year.
But is it enough? With bee populations crashing worldwide, other Israelis believe high-tech pollination may be necessary to sideline the bees entirely.
As the bee population is declining, global agriculture needs a solution which doesn't rely on bees anymore, but which will either supplement or eventually replace the bees.
The situation certainly stings a little. On one hand, industrialized agriculture is necessary to feed 7 billion people around the world. But on the other, it's also poisoning trillions of essential workers that do the same thing.
Okay, so here you have seen the combination of the two startups that I showed you. Days will tell what will happen. Anyway, till now we need to continue with our honeybee, and I do hope that you will follow all the regulation and all the management that's needed to get a higher crop. I'm glad that you choose this subject about pollination. It means that you came to the degree that you know the value of pollination, because many countries don't know the value of pollination, the contribution of the bee to the national economy. And as I told you, when you explain them and show them, they change the attitude. So to sum up, I would like to thank all of you for the listening to this short lecture. And I supposed to be, as I told you, it's recorded, and I supposed to be on the 28th on the Zoom. If you have any question, I'll try to answer. Also, Mrs. Tami Eran Shushan, if you have any question about the courses, and also if you have about the PICAT by Professor Eugene Baltazar. And I would like to wish all of you large and great success and health, good health, and all the best. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that informative presentation, Mr. Stern. But before we proceed with the Q&A, of course, we would like to acknowledge the presence of our USEC Evelyn Lavinia here. Thank you so much, Pam, for joining us this afternoon. We really appreciate your presence. Now, let's proceed with our Q&A portion. Mr. Stern, please join me here. All right, good afternoon. We have here a few questions from an agripreneur from Davao City. Our first question is, how safe is honey beekeeping, and what are the dangers, especially to health of the keepers and neighbors?
Can you repeat, please, the question, please? Hello? Do you hear me?
Hello? Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Hello?
All right, I'll repeat my question.
Hello? What was the question, please? Who is
The
asking?
question is, how safe is honey beekeeping, and what are the dangers, especially to health of the keepers and neighbors?
It's not dangerous in the Philippines. The bees are more gentle than the bees in Israel. You know, once we brought to the Philippines many years ago five nucleus from Israel, and our bees are more, I don't want to say aggressive, I can say defensive. We brought him to the Philippines. They was very gentle because the climate and the weather and maybe the people. So I don't see any problem about this. Hello, you hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. This is Tech. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's put Miss Kate back. Right. Okay, Miss Kate.
All right, we also have a few more questions here in our chat box. Let me read this for you. Hold on. So a question from Ana Maria Isabel Visa Lacata. My beekeepers group have had a hard time acquiring new queens for Apis mellifera, so that we have switched to native slingless bee propagation or tetragonula species, etc. How can we get new queen bees as a lot of beekeepers are still Apis fans?
You know, the queen is very important. The offspring, the worker are doing all the work. So we have selection. We should have selection of bees, and we have queen rearing. We have a special course about queen rearing, and it's a too short time to teach you how to make a queen rearing. You can see in the YouTube and many movies how to make a new queen, and you can make also artificial insemination and make a test. What I would like to emphasize is that this is very important to have good queen, because this is the base for beekeeping, for good beekeeping. Did I answer for the question?
So much. Another question. We will entertain two more questions. So right now from Kaduan, one of the problem of beekeepers in the Philippines are the predators such as birds. How do we control the damage of the birds and the reduction of population of the bees? Hello, Mr. Stern. Are you still there? All right, so maybe Mr. Stern is facing technical difficulties right here. But again, for those of you who have more questions to ask, feel free to email us on secretariat@iccp.ph. Also, we would like to encourage you to follow us on our social media platforms. And again, right now, as early as now, we would like to thank you guys for attending this event. I hope you learned a lot. And later on, we will still have a lot more learnings to get from our participants and speakers as well. So again, please email your unanswered questions to secretariat@iccp.ph and we'll get back to you shortly. And hello to all of the participants who are right here joining us live on Facebook, here on Zoom. We are now at 214. And you guys, I'm seeing a lot of people coming from different places here in the Philippines, also from out of the country. We have here those who are from Cavite, I guess, from Davao. And please greet us if you guys are present in the call, listening attentively to all our speakers. Feel free to greet us live and share with us your thoughts and learnings coming from Mr. Stern's speech a while ago. And all right, so maybe we'll proceed with our next speaker. Okay, so I guess you guys are all excited to meet our next speaker. Our second speaker is the owner of the Eddie Bohol Bee Farm. He is also the former president of the Integrated Organic Agribusiness Incorporated and Regional Organic Agriculture Confederation in the Visayas region. He is also the former chairman of the Cebu Organic Agriculture Cooperative. Dear participants, let us now give a virtual applause to Mr. Eddie Bohol.
Good morning, everyone. Our topic for today is beekeeping with pollination and the effect of this to the plants and for the production of our vegetable and fruits. So this is the first how the colony, you can see it on the farms. And then, yeah, this is the kind of bees that I am using. This is European bees. This is the kind of bee my apiary has nearly 3 decades, originally from Europe and naturalized in many parts of the world. It is well adapted to the life of movable frame already. This is used in my farm because this is the one we use for honey production. This is the bee averaging to 30 kilos to 150 kilos in good honey yielding areas. Establishing of an apiary is highly recommended because of the surrounding vegetation which provide the whole year-round supply of pollen and nectar. Most in the area in the Philippines are with coconut and native species of mulabi and acacia shrubs. Aside from the promising income of honey and its product for local and export market, it is also increases productivity significantly while addresses environmental degradation and support ecosystem development. These are the benefits of beekeeping. When you are doing beekeeping, you will have honey, pollen, beeswax, bee venom, royal jelly, propolis, or bee glue. Honey is taken by the workers from the flowers. To produce 16 ounces of pure honey, it needs 1,152 bees to travel 112,000 miles and visit 4.5 million flowers. Nectar is a liquid sugar solution that flowers produce. It contains mostly water. The bees must evaporate it to make honey, which has about 18% water in it. The different flavors and colors of honey depend on the types of flower the bees collected the nectar from. Pollen. This is a staple food of honeybee. It is also considered the most complete food for human. It comes from the male part of the flower and it is powdery dust which comes off when rubbed by the bees. The pollen fertilizes the female part of the flower and produces the fruit, seeds, or vegetable. Bees collect this pollen by means of special hairs on its body and return to the hive with it. Beeswax, product of young honeybee workers. This is also used in the manufacture of medicine, candles, candies, cosmetics, facial cream, flour, and shoe polish. It is secreted by the young worker bees to make the honeycomb. All their honey, pollen, and brood immature bees are stored inside the waxcomb cells. In order for the bees to make wax, they need to eat large amount of honey or sugar syrup and pollen. Bee venom contains a substance that is effective medicine for arthritis, rheumatoid, and also helps skin disease. Although it is raw form, it is a liquid poison. Royal jelly. This is a creamy substance produced by the honeybee. It contains various nutrients. It is said to be an effective appetizer while it is believed to be the elixir of youth. Propolis. Bees use the sticky sap from trees and flower buds to make bee glues or propolis. This gummy material is collected to seal cracks and holes and to waterproof the hive. It also kills microorganisms that would otherwise invade and live in small cracks. Importance of bees in nature. Bees play a very important role but little recognize this. Most areas where there are green vegetation cover at least 3 to 4 months each year. In tropical forest, mangrove, and in temperate forest, many species of plants and animals would not survive if bees were missing. This is because the production of seeds, nuts, berries, and fruits are highly dependent on insect pollination. And among the pollinating insects, bees are the major pollinators. In rainforests, especially in high mountain forests, where it is too cold for most bees, other pollinators like bats and birds play a greater role in the plant pollination. In farm areas, bees are needed for pollination of many cultivated crops and maintain biodiversity. The main role of bees in different ecosystems is their pollination works. This is bee pollination. This is the cross-pollination from trees, from flowers to flowers. What is pollination? Pollination is the transfer of pollen from anther to the stigma, which is the female part of the flower. Some plants can pollinate themselves. In this case, the pollen passes through the anther to the stigma inside the same flower, and this is the self-pollination. Some general rule can be used to detect whether a plant is pollinated by bees, flies, beetles, wasps, butterfly, moth, thrips, birds, bats, marsupials, slugs, or rodents. Flower pollinated by bees most often bloom in daytime. They can have different colors but seldom red. The scent of daytime bee-pollinated flowers tend to be less strong than that of night-pollinated flowers, often pollinated by bats or moths. Honeybee-pollinated flowers have nectar tubes not more than 2 centimeters long. They have nectar guides, patterned to direct the bee towards the nectar and often a landing place for bees. Bees specially attracted to white, blue, and yellow flowers. Plants pollinated by insects are called entomophilos, and insects are generally the most important pollinators. Effects of pollination. Pollinated plants had bigger fruits, mostly with normal shapes, while those that were not fully pollinated had smaller and deformed fruits because of the failure of some seeds to be fertilized. Pollination of bees. If we look at the color and different looking flowers, we should not forget that they have developed an adaptation for the bees and other pollinators and not to please humans. An estimated 80% of flowering plants are depending on more or less on insect pollination to be able to reproduce, and it is estimated that half of the pollinators of tropical plants are bees. The efficiency of honeybees is due to their great numbers, their behavior of foraging only one plant species at one time. Pollen is also attracting the bees, but it has not another function too. It produces to ensure the next generation of plants. Bee pollinated flowers have evolved in such a way that a visiting bee has brushed against the flowers after bearing pollen. Compared with other insect, bees are extremely hairy. Each hair has a branch structure that makes it highly effective at catching pollen. To prevent the pollen falling off during flight, the bee will mix some nectar with pollen. That gives the sweet taste when eating pollen balls collected by the bees. It also makes the pollen a little darker so that it can be difficult to see from which plant the source. To create a seed, the pollen grain has to grow a small tube inside the stigma to the ovary of the flower. A male gamete can travel through the tube, fertilize the egg cell, and start developing of the fertile seed. Now the fertilization has taken place. Some plants need several successful visits from the bees to ensure all flowers' eggs are fertilized. For example, some variety of strawberry needs 20 pollen grains, requiring visit of several bees. An apple flower may need 4 to 5 bee visits to receive enough pollen grains to complete the fertilization. If fertilization is inadequate because of lack of bees, not all seeds will develop and the shape of the fruits will be small. Fertilization is the beginning of a new seed which perhaps will grow and develop into a plant. The new plant will bloom, provide the bees with food, be pollinated, and fertilized with many cycles. This way, the cycle continues. The forager bee returns to the colony with her pollen loads, which are placed in the nest in the area of the comb close to the brood. Actual experience, well pollinated by our bees, corn and coffee. In some area near our apiary, farmers plant corn almost several decades. They harvest 70 to 80 sacks in every harvest. But when our apiary of 70 colonies has been installed, the corn harvest reaches 100 sacks. The variety of corn still the same as before, while the land still the same. This is the corn, just to show that the corn well pollinated. Coffee, not properly pollinated. This is the coffee before the bees were installed. Yeah, coffee well pollinated. Yeah, this is the flowering of the coffee. This is how the coffee after this was well pollinated. Yeah, this is the actual coffee in the farm when the apiary was installed. Bee role in collecting nectar. Yeah, you say bees has no problem in finding nectar in flat open flower, but in flowers with more complex, they have to learn it by trial and error. After some visit in the same type of flower, the bee learned where the nectar is and learned this for the next visit. Pollen is the protein food for the bees. A bee can make between 7 to 14 trips a day. A colony with 25,000 forage bees, each making 10 trips a day, can pollinate 250 million flowers. The ability of honeybee to communicate other bees in a colony where to go, collecting more pollen and nectar is very important for their efficiency as pollinators. When a scout bee found a good nectar or pollen source, she will return to the colony and communicate with other bees where they can find same food. This is done with a special dance indicating the distance, quality, and direction of the nest. Flowers closer than around 200 meters are just announced with a waggle dance without indicating any direction. When bees begin to foraging for pollen and or nectar, they will visit the same species of flowers and work as long as plenty as nectar or pollen can be found. For example, if a bee starts collecting in acacia tree, she will fly from acacia flower to acacia flower and not behave as many other insects do, maximizing great pollination effect. This behavior of bees is called foraging constancy. Some flowers are open and with nectar all day and night, but others are open only for a few hours in the morning, afternoon, or night. The single worker bee learns and remember what time the flower are worth visiting. When enough bees are present in the forest, they provide a better pollination that leads to improved regeneration of trees and conservation of the forest biodiversity. In that way, there is a greater chance for some offspring to survive in the competition of life. And this, we find the bees as one of the most important factors. The bee colony. In order to become successful, it is important to know your bee colony, their behavior and needs. Bee colony composed of queen, drones, and workers. A strong colony of Apis mellifera of 10 frames could have a population of 40,000 workers, a queen, a few drones, 6,000 eggs, 10,000 larvae, and 20,000 pupa. Starting an apiary, an initial of 3 colony is required to start with smoker, hive tool, and beetle. The best time to start during summer, flower in bloom for efficient source of nectar and pollen. Procure bee colony from reliable source, usually a nucleus colony. Check the following. All stages of broods, larva and pupa should be present. Good laying queen, pollen and nectar. This should be free from mites and diseases. This is the ideal bee farm. So near freshwater supply, not contaminated, easy for beekeepers to reach and work, near food source or for bees, not on wet, swampy, lowland, in deep and humid area. Provide a windbreaker to keep hives from being blown away from floods or open fires. Keep brush, vines, and weeds cleared away from the hives. Hives should be placed on a stand, not directly on the ground. This is the apiary. This is a bee farm, an apiary or an apiary. Yeah, this is also another way of installing the bee colonies. The drone has no pollen basket or wax glands, cannot secrete royal jelly. They are stingless and defenseless. Their single function is to mate with new queens. After mating, which always takes place on the open air, a drone dies immediately. This is the drone. The worker bees are females and most numerous in the hard-working members of the colony. A healthy colony may contain 80,000 worker bees or more. At its peak, growth is in early summer but decline to around 10,000 during cold. These are the workers. Workers leave the hive to gather nectar, pollen, and water and propolis. They convert the nectar to honey, clean the comb, feed the larvae, drones, and the queen. They also ventilate the nest. When necessary, defend the colony with their stings. Workers do not mate and therefore cannot produce the fertile eggs. They occasionally lay infertile eggs, which give rise to drones. Workers' division of labor, yeah. First to 2 days, clean cells and keep the brood warm. 3 to 5 days, feed all the larvae, and 6 to 11 days, feed youngest larva, and then with royal jelly. 12 to 17 days, this is they produce wax, build combs, carry food, undertake duties. And then 18 to 21 days, guard the hive in trance, and then 22 days, they will be flying to collect pollen, nectar, and water. Inspecting colony. Work on days when bees are flying well since half of the foraging bees will normally be out. Do not work when it is too windy, rainy, or cold since all the bees will be at home. Wear protective clothing and a veil. Beekeepers will wear gloves for confidence. Bee stings leave a scent in the gloves, so be sure to wash gloves periodically. Remain calm and work slowly. If you are nervous or have an odor that alarms bees, hair tonic, horse smells, the bees will be more likely to sting you. Do not stand in front of the hive. The foraging bees will be blocked. Remove the outside cover gently. You may not use a smoker when bees seems to be gentle. What to look for if you are inspecting the hive? So when you are inspecting the hive, you need to look for the queen. When you find her, be careful that it does not become crash or drop on the ground. The queen is generally found around the warm brood nest or nearest the egg and uncapped larva. This is how we do the inspections. This is the queen with the mark on it and white on the thorax. The queen bee is the only sexually productive female in the colony and is the mother of all drones, workers, and future queens. Her capacity of her laying eggs is outstanding. Her daily output often exceeds to 1,500 to 2,000 eggs. The weight is equivalent to that of her own body. The queen can live up to 5 years, but it is of very little value of the colony after 3 years because her laying capacity reduces with age. She is constantly fed and groomed by the worker bees and produces pheromones called queen substance that act as scent, which informs the colony that a viable queen is present. If a queen is removed or lost from the colony, workers will notice it in less than 30 minutes and become very agitated and prepare to rear new queens. Eggs. When you look at the frame of uncapped larva, check the frame carefully and you might see eggs. If the hive has no egg or you cannot see brood or the queen, you may consider the hive to be queenless. Requeen it by either giving it a queen cell or a new queen or joining it with a queen right hive. Good brood pattern. When the queen lays egg in in every empty cell so that the immature bees larvae fill up the comb, this is said to be a good laying queen, showing a good brood patterns. Spotty egg laying pattern, many drones, many male bees, or non-vigorous or queen should be replaced. Weaker hive cannot defend themselves against pests, cockroaches, or other robbing bees. Surplus honey. Bees instinctively store honey to eat during times of hardship and scarceness of food. Beekeepers try to make the bees store more honey than they need and this surplus is what is harvested. To keep the queen from laying in the honeycombs, surplus honey is usually found above the brood. In the upper portion of the hive, some honey should be left on the hive at all times, otherwise bees will starve during their times or leave the hive. If bees are starving and no food is available, white sugar syrup must be fed to keep the bees living. This is how a ripe and suitable honey frame to be harvested. So this is ripe honey. So once it is sealed by the bees, that is ready for harvesting, or this is how they store their own food. Honey is their food. Sealed honey. This is the best stage to harvest the honey from the frame, since the bees had already sealed this frame for future food, while moisture content of this honey has been in proper order. Pesticidal poisoning. Pesticidal poisoning has been considered as a threat to beekeeping. Pesticide poisoning of bees are caused by application of insecticide to crops that are in bloom. Bees coming in with insecticide residue drift off. Chemical sprays on flowering crops or apiaries contaminated nectar and pollen. Symptoms of pesticide poisoning is exhibited by the large number of dead bees in front or near the hive entrance that result to sudden dwindling of adult bee population. The beekeeper should be aware of the location of the apiary and migration of bee colonies to avoid poisoning of the bees during the bloom period of crops. This is how the pesticide was applied. So this is how the bees will die. So Einstein said, if bees disappear from the earth, human has only 4 years to live. So this is the honey package of my product. The next is, these are the pure beeswax of mine. Yeah, that's contact. Thank you. And that's the last for your time and happy beekeeping. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bahal, for the beekeeping insights that you shared with us. Now, I think we are ready to answer all the questions from the chat box. So here, my question from, let me ask the question from Moises Glenn Tangalin. Maybe you can answer those questions, sir. How do we know that the honey sold in the market is pure?
Yeah. Yeah, this is how the hello, how do you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Loud and clear.
When it comes to purity of honey, I will just say that my experience with selling honey, I'm not selling in the department stores. I only sell to those people who are my customers long time ago, because I've been doing my beekeeping for nearly 3 decades.
So here in Cebu, I am here in Cebu, so this is why my base in I am based in Cebu City, but my apiary before is until from San Remigio, Cebu, at northern part of Cebu, and also in Buluon for the southern part of Cebu. But the honey, how to check with the honey purity, there's a lot of things. You know, I know that a lot of also people doing this fake honey or making fake honey, but we cannot, you know, they are also earning. They want to sell some honey for their family. So I will just, the only thing I can suggest is, or advise to people who don't have the colony, just buy to the people who, or to the beekeepers inside or in your area. That's the only thing I can advise.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Bold. If you could please turn on your camera just so we can see you while you're answering our questions. But for our next question, we have from Chris Anthony Empeynado. He's curious about this green honey. Can we get it here from the Philippines?
Yeah, this is a very nice question because I have the KMJS, Jessica. So I mean, just for mentioning this kind of video, I myself, when you know, because of my experience, I heard, or I heard during those times in Palawan that there were some green honey and even blue honey, but it's not. For my own experience here in Cebu, I personally saw in my two eyes green nectar, but that is not green honey because nectar is not honey. So the color of that is actually, if some people know, or I know, in especially Filipino, they know what is the color of effervescent oil. I'm not advertising this thing, but that is the actual color of the nectar I have seen in my colony, actual experience. So, but after the harvesting, because this nectar will be ripe, the honey was dark. It turns out dark honey because my protocol is always to harvest ripe and sealed frames. So I will not bring in my bodega the unsealed frame. So I will not harvest those things. So only sealed frames. So meaning we don't have green honey, but if you want green honey, you can add food coloring. That's the simple. But no, I never had green honey. Only yellowish. Yes, sometimes you have yellowish because I experienced some eucalyptus trees with, I harvested honey in eucalyptus trees. This comes out with like edible oil. I mean, I think you know, yeah. Edible oil is the color, like golden, but the taste is a little bit minty. There's a little bit mint on the eucalyptus trees. That kind of harvest or that kind of honey, I harvested here in Cebu. That's
okay. That's clear, Sir Bo. Thanks for that. Do you want to share your contact details just in case a lot of people here in the Zoom have questions on honey variants as well? Do you want to share with us before we jump to our last question?
Yeah, you can call me or you can also send me by email my b8king@yahoo.com. Bravo Echo Echo nya number 8 nya Kilo India November at yahoo.com. And then my contact number is 0917-6246110 for my globe. And you see, you can see my product. I have about at present, because my harvest is not all, I mean, I have some wax also available in my area. That's it.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. For our last question, Is it possible to grow colonies in or near riverbanks? This is a question from Miss Andrea de Villego. For instance, here in Iloilo River, so Miss Andrea is from Iloilo River. She said that there's a lot of mangroves and other trees and plants around, but the water is brackish. So will it affect the bees if there's salt spray?
Yeah, in the area with it's a very good area, especially you have mangroves. Mangroves is giving you nectar nearly whole year round. And they have a this kind of, the honey that you can get from the mangroves are dark, totally dark. So you can have that one in, especially in, of course, there is a mangrove. So what is, I have shown already the, the ideal area or the ideal location where you can install your apiary. So it's easy. If there is some wind, you can have some, a windbreaker, or you can have some, you can include that one. You can put some shades, but water is also needed by the bees. At the same time, even you have a lot of water, but if you don't have nectar around, there's no way the bees will prosper. So that means you need, my only advice is, first check the area at least 6 kilometers from the area you want to install, and try to check if there is nobody spraying like mango and other product. I mean other fruit trees that are sprayed. That is a very important thing, because otherwise, if you will be spraying those, your bees will be gone. And also, just to add up, during the inspection, especially now we have the inspection of organic farms. One of the some inspector are, if they see that there is a bee colony in the farm of a certain owner and installed a farm, that means the farm is organic, because there's nobody using chemical. Otherwise, the bees will die. Yeah, I think that's
all right. Thank you. Yes, thank you so much, Sir Bohol. We would like to entertain more questions, but yeah, we've been getting a lot of interesting questions, but we are pressed for time, unfortunately. So we request those with unanswered questions to please email them to secretariat@iccp.ph. And also, if you have questions that you would like to directly address to Mr. Bohol, the contact details of Mr. Bohol is there in our chat box. There you can see the contact number sent by Miss Jane. And our yes, again, thank you so much, Mr. Eddie Bohol, for joining us. We learned a lot from you. Thank you so much. And our last but definitely not the least speaker will also have a Q&A right after the presentation, so please get ready. Now, I am very proud to introduce to you our speaker is the owner of the Malaya Bee Farm. She is a graduate of MSc Management from the University of Asia and Pacific. She also has a degree in Bachelor of Arts, major in Humanities from the UANP, a former research assistant of her university and a former sales and operations associate of Malaya Bath and Body Wellness. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Ms. Bettina Omoyon.
My friend told me that somewhere in the Philippines, there's a place called the Malaya Bee Farm, which is a really cool place to visit. Kuya dropped me off on the road to Cuenca, that is in Batangas, where I followed a small path in the jungle for 5 minutes. It was the kind of place where there wasn't any sign to show you how to get there. Who would have thought that there was this magical world hidden there? where tiny bees native to the Philippines produce a delicious kind of honey that can't be found anywhere else in the world. The first thing I noticed was the harmony between what people built and nature. With every step I took, there was something new to discover. A flower, a bird, a butterfly, and of course, the bees. Here, I met Sir Rico, the humble owner and beekeeper of the Malaya Bee Farm. He is truly a nature lover and devotes his life to taking care of the Filipino bees. Many flowers, fruits, and vegetables are grown organically on the farm for the pleasure of the bees and the guests who are lucky enough to taste the most natural foods you could ever think of. This place is not a restaurant, but the food prepared by Sir Rico's aunt is worth all the restaurants I've ever tried. By coming here, I've learned a very important lesson. Listening to nature leads to a more positive life.
Hello everyone, I'm Bettina from Malaya Bee Farm. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about our farm. To properly introduce our business, let's dial back to 2008, when Malaya All Organics was founded. Malaya started as an organic skincare company. It was born out of our mother's need to treat our little brother's atopic dermatitis, or eczema. And the solution she found was simply switching to all natural products. After obsessively conducting research and development, we built our capacity to make our own products that work well for our customers and the environment. Over time, we developed more and more products with the help of our customers, who are vocal about what products they want. To date, Malaya carries over 100 SKUs, but what changed the game for us back then was when we needed a reliable supply of pure, raw honey. Honey is a key ingredient in one of our best-selling products. We also use natural, food-grade beeswax to make our bombs. So we were faced with a dilemma when we were sold fake or adulterated honey. This led us to look more into the honey industry and speak to different suppliers. In the midst of our research, our fascination for bees began. Thus, Malaya Bee Farm was founded in 2010, a 1-hectare plot of land in San Jose, Batangas, where we started out practicing apiary and meliponery. To build our farm to what it is today, we took formal studies on beekeeping at a state university that specialized on it. Then we pursued advanced beekeeping studies in the US and had additional beekeeping exposure in Malaysia. What set us apart is that we've made every inch of our land productive. Our farm is home to not only our bees, but also an array of flowers, vegetables, fruits, and trees, which we allow our visitors to pick and pay during their visit. With our harvest from the farm, we're able to get raw materials for our products and at the same time sell byproducts made by the bees. Some ingredients we get from beekeeping include propolis and honey for our throat spray and beeswax for our lip balms and candles. The bee farm became a way for us to promote our products while also educating the market about the health benefits that our products offer. We give our visitors a tour around the farm and teach them about the ecology of the area and highlight the role that our bees play. Our products include different kinds of honey that were harvested by a variety of bees. We have ones from our native stingless honeybees and from European honeybees. Our customers love tasting the different flavor notes from the different kinds of honey we bring to the market. After we share the backstory about how the honey was made, they always develop a deeper appreciation for the bees. Today, more and more skincare products that have propolis or honey are being introduced to the market. These are being introduced as ingredients to facial sheet masks, ampoules, facial toners, eye creams, and more. As an effect, consumers are actively doing their own research on these ingredients. Propolis, for example, is becoming more well known as both a skincare ingredient and an immune system booster. While propolis has a long history of use as a natural treatment, more and more studies are being conducted to show its many health properties, including antimicrobial, antifungal, antiviral, anti-inflammatory, and anti-tumor qualities. Now, homemakers and health buffs actively search for the reputable brands that carry propolis tinctures or oils. Among our customers, there are professional athletes who highly regard bee pollen as a superfood and take it in preparation for their competitive sports activities. There are even do-it-yourself hobbyists who make their own homemade candles by using the natural beeswax that we source from the farm. By using bee byproducts like honey and beeswax as our raw material, we're able to make high-quality bath soaps, shampoos, facial wash, lip balms, and many more. We also developed our own leather polish and wood polish, which has met much success on all of our platforms. There are endless possibilities in making products that are made from the hive. We're lucky to have the opportunity to continuously develop other ways of maximizing the potential of bee byproducts. Because it offers so many health benefits, our patrons would likely say the same. An interesting side note is that because of the pandemic, more people had turned to natural and organic food, which has boosted our honey sales. This growing trend encourages customers to buy smarter. The market is slowly becoming more health conscious by preferring real, unadulterated honey. Consumers are starting to put a premium on authentic and organic honey as well as its byproducts. Our products are available on our online platforms such as our website and e-commerce platforms such as Shopee, Lazada, and Beauty MNL. It's also being used in resorts around the country. A few years after the farm was founded, we started training farmers all across the Philippines. We've been teaching farmers for the past 9 years. We believe in the saying that, to go fast, go alone, to go far, go together. For us, it's very important to teach others how to take care of bees to empower them to start their own beekeeping business. Often, farmers treat bees as pests and end up killing them. For example, there are various stingless bee species in the country. However, the farmers don't understand how to use it, what it's for, and how to propagate. So what we do is to make an assessment of the area and then teach farmers how to keep the species of stingless bees that already inhabit their location. By simply increasing the colonies of the existing species, this service helps the farmers enhance what they currently have instead of introducing a new species to the area. The practice of stingless beekeeping helps them minimize costs, while our expertise helps them increase efficiency. We educate farmers to keep bees not only for the honey they produce, but for the increase in crop yield that they provide. After we've taught them the day-to-day operations of keeping bees, we also teach them how to market their products. Since not everyone has access to the market, we encourage farmers by buying the honey that they produce. This helps the farmers sustain their operations and allows us to have a continuous supply of honey for our customers. Additionally, this ensures that the farmers follow the best practices for beekeeping because we train them ourselves. Exactly how does empowering beekeepers benefit Milea? Number one is that we can operate around the country through our beekeeping cooperators. This way, there are unlimited areas for beekeeping. We're not only expanding our area of operation, but we also expand our potential volume for harvest. We buy honey, pollen, propolis from them, all while giving them the opportunity to have higher crop yield thanks to pollination. Number 2 is that we spread the risk. If one area has pests or diseases, we'll get the harvest from a different location instead. Additionally, because of the varying climates in the different island groups, we're able to extend our harvest season. All in all, this system of education that we built makes our business sustainable on all fronts. Educating and empowering farmers makes our supply chain sustainable, while educating our consumers turns them into advocates and even fans of our products. Even though the global health crisis caused a boom in the wellness industry, bee byproducts are still in their introductory phase. All it takes is a bit of education for the market to appreciate the health products made by the bees and drive demand higher and higher. If there's one piece of advice that we can impart with you here today, it's that education is key. When you share your knowledge to others, the profit will follow. Thank you so much for listening to our story. We hope that you picked up a few things that can move your vision forward. We have high hopes of seeing the beekeeping industry grow stronger and seeing more of the general public become aware of the importance of bees. Have a great day and stay safe.
Thank you, Ms. Moyan, for the engaging presentation that you shared with us. We are now ready to answer questions from our participants. I'll read through our chat box. So this is a question from Brent Marbella. He is asking what is liquid honey and its advantage of liquid honey among the other types?
Liquid honey, it's the regular honey that you get from beekeeping. So there are actually two kinds that we have. One is from the normal European honeybees, which is the ones that you would regularly see in supermarkets. So typically it's sweeter in flavor, while we also have stingless honey from stingless honeybees. So these are the ones that are actually native here in the Philippines. So they are a lot more sour in flavor, and it tends to be a lot darker also.
All right. So here's another question. What plants and flowers should be planted to encourage production of honey?
Anything that is being approached by the bees. So for us, we have a lot of our cosmos plants. We have a variety of leafy greens. We have also a variety of flowers and trees.
Hello?
Hello? Hear me? Oh, I think Katie was the one that was disconnected. But yes, it's very important to have a very diverse biodiversity for the bees, because it helps encourage them to have more nutritional honey, because they get different nutrients from different flower sources.
All right, thanks for that, Ms. Amoya. Now, from last question from Ramon C. Maria. He is asking which breed of bees are you raising?
Oh, we have our European honeybees and our stingless bees in the farm.
All right. Sorry, last question from Lilia. How can we know if the colony of bees we buy is strong?
Usually, you'd know it's strong if there are a lot of them, because there are some colonies that you can buy where there aren't that many worker bees. So it also depends on the number of worker bees that you would have in the colony.
Okay, Miss Kate?
All right. Yes, I'm back. That's about it. Ms. Amoya, thank you so much for answering all the questions. And thank you also for that wonderful presentation. We really enjoyed watching your video and learned a lot from it. And now, we're still getting a lot of questions. Do you want to share your contact details just in case they want to ask you anything about anything bee related?
Yes, you can contact us at mileabfarm@gmail.com.
All right. Thank you once again, Miss Bidel Moya. Now, before we continue, allow me to thank once again our valued sponsors who made this event possible. Our platinum members, Black Sea Advisors Incorporated, Ethiopian Airlines, and Exlinkevents. Our gold members, Diane Business Consultancy and City Manila, Argon ICCP, Star K Kosher, Watermatic Philippines, and Exceed. Our event sponsors, Harvest Agribusiness Corporation and Mapicon and Philtask International Corporation. Thank you for your support. Yeah, we would like to introduce to you our President of the Harvest Agribusiness Corporation, Mr. Arsenio Ortoto Barcelona. He is also the chairman of the Agriculture Committee of the Management Association of the Philippines. He is also a board director of the Negros Economic Development Foundation Incorporated and the vice chairman of the Philippine Chamber of Agriculture and Food Incorporated. Ladies and gentlemen, let us give a warm virtual applause to Mr. Toto Barcelona.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for attending our webinar. I think I learned a lot today. No? So I would like to thank first Saiki Stern for sharing with us his expertise on bees. No? So he's the #1 bee man in Israel. No? And he's well known all over the world, no, for sharing his knowledge. And of course, I'd like to thank our good friend Eddie Bohol and Miss Bea Omoyon. So without any hesitation, when I called them, said, sure, we can share our knowledge. No? So as you can see, beekeeping, apiculture is a very deep science. No? Akala natin bubuyog lang, no? I usually call them the hidden actors of farming. Kasi if you notice in the US, it was a big problem, no? When there was a large death occurrence among bees, and it affected the productivity of their fruit trees. So I'm very thankful with the work of Israel in the Philippines, the Mashab program that sponsors more than 900 Filipino college students, no, third-year students, every year to work in Israeli farms. So it's a work-study program. No? Hindi lang natin alam, no? Ang dami na graduates. But then, sad to say, many of them are employed abroad. No, because we don't have the necessary opportunities here. But I hope someday they'll find the Philippines as an opportunity for developing further, no, their knowledge acquired in Israel. I was one of the beneficiaries of the Mashab program. I think more than 10 years ago with Dr. There for 2 weeks to learn from the experts. At the same time, see the different farms, no, in the middle of the desert. No, you won't believe it. 400 tons in 1 hectare within a greenhouse in the middle of the desert. So when we challenged our professor, Omar Saidan, he was telling us, well, you will visit it tomorrow. No? So when we visited it, I was counting the number of plants and multiply it with the estimated fruits. I think you have more than 400 tons. Our average in the Philippines for open air, open field, tomato is around 14 tons to 18 tons. So theirs is 400 tons. So anyway, maraming salamat for your time. And we look forward, no, to having you in our future webinars with Israeli experts and Filipino experts. We are looking into dairy, water resource management, and we can also touch on the Mashab program. What is it all about, and the benefit that we gain from this program. And lastly, maybe we will also include greenhouse farming in the future. So we hope that we can organize all these webinars with our very able executive director, Jane Lopez. So she's the one behind all of this. So we thank her for the organization, and thank you very much to Picard also for helping us with the invitation. And of course, many of our friends who shared our post. So thank you very much. And we hope that we will have more webinars in the future. Daghang salamat. And daghang salamat po kay my very good friend, Yusik Evelyn Lavinia. So she's also a plant nursery operator herself. And I'm very touched with her insights that she shared about bees. So thank you very much. And thank you also, Kathleen, for your very interesting and lively moderation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sir Todo, and congratulations on this very successful event. Thank you so much for sharing those interesting webinars and events that we should look forward to. And now we would like to greet all the participants who joined us. Thanks everyone for coming. See you all at our next event. Again, this is Kate Vary, your events host this afternoon.
השמש ולהדק